Hello everybody and welcome to this playthrough for Pro Division with the tournament win for the Redwood Cup Tournament and the Sequoia Creek. The video here is sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic. And before we start, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and also visit golfclashtommy.com for more Golf Clash related content for free. You can also get the best guides on the market by going to patreon.com/golfclashtommy to check out our summer special. In the end though, if you can hit the thumbs up on this video, that would be much appreciated. If we can get to 100 thumbs up, that would be amazing, and thank you so much. Follow the information box on the right hand side. There I do juggle a little bit with the elevation. I do have what type of ball and club I do feel is going to be the best ones to play. Have in mind that elevation is a floating number. You don't have to play exactly the same way as I do, but I always have a plan with the adjustment that is suggested. In the end though, the thing that we're looking for is to get the balls in the hole, and that is something that I hope to help you out with. So let's go to hole number 1. For hole number 1, we're going to see two type of options, and we are going to play first and foremost on the left hand side. Here I would strongly advise you to play with the rock if you do have that possibility. The reason for that is that it gives you accuracy, it also gives you a good ball guideline, and therefore with a great ball you will still be able to stay away from the rough. Now, using a katana ball which has power 2, side spin 3, I do think it's very valuable to use all the side spin that we can to be against the wind. It means that we're pulling the side spin in the wind and therefore being kicked back to the left. You can see that we do hit great left here, and I would strongly advise you to play medium distance with a 20% over adjustment for the drive. Put a note at the 314 yard mark, because that's going to be important. When playing left side, you can use yardage notes because it's then going to be a linear hole. And here for the second shot, I do decide to go for a rough bump. You can either go with the Hornet or you can actually go with the runner, because the thing that we do want to have here is ball guideline, and we also want to put the ball guideline to be through the hole pretty decent amount. 2 green squares, we do want the ball guideline to be through the hole. So either you go with the Hornet, if you do have the Hornet in too low level to have minimum like less than 50 in topspin, then I would strongly advise you to play with the runner to get the ball guideline, like to get the topspin down towards the pin. Here I do adjust for a medium distance with a 10% over adjustment. I would, however, want us to play with 15% over adjustment as to be getting that ball in the hole. Also, once again, make the ball guideline go through the hole to be able to get that to not stop short, because stopping short in line, which we didn't really do here now because we missed right, but if we would be stopping short in line, that's going to be the kind of the worst thing that could happen. But this is the left side approach. Let's take a look at the right side. For the right side approach, first and foremost, we are going to start with the drive. The drive is going to be way easier going to the right than left because we have a more open fairway to play with. 4.5 bar topspin and as much side spin to the left possible. Yes, we do want to keep ourselves kind of in the center of the fairway, and as we do have wind coming left to right, then the side spin to the left will going to help us out tremendously. We start at +2 yard mark. If you do play with an extra mile level 8, you start just before the +0 yard mark, just to give you as a reference. Maximum distance with a 20% over adjustment, power 2 ball, and then we're going to see a great ball to the right. And unfortunately we don't go left, because if we would be if we would be having a great left or a perfect, we would find ourselves with a short iron in maximum distance, and that's kind of like what I do want in the end. But even with a great right, we see ourselves finding ourselves in a nice position, which is that we can actually play with a long iron in absolute minimum distance of our club. Now I'm using the Goliath level 7. Here I would strongly advise you to have the ball guideline to the hole with the Goliath level 7. Goliath 8 and 9 have the ball guideline go slightly through the hole. Those of you that can play with the Grizzly, don't rule out that club, because the ball guideline there is amazing and will help a lot. So we are in complete minimum distance. We are going to play minimum distance with a 15% over adjustment. Is what we're going to do. Have in mind now that ball guideline is slightly through the hole with the Goliath level 7, which is is having a pretty bad ball guideline compared to a Grizzly or something like that. So we should be coming in fairly hot. And you can see that we roll and we get this one to come in pretty hot in my opinion. We could be good with, as already explained, ball guideline to the hole, not through the hole with the Goliath level 7. So to summarize here, which way do I believe is going to be the best? I believe left side, even though we dropped it on the right. And the reason I feel that is because we are able then to play with yardage notes. Because being able to play with a drive in a consistent way to get a consistent yardage will help you tremendously trying to get that second shot in the hole just more frequently than on the right. Because we will have a different distance to the pin from every time we play on the right hand side. So left side is going to be my choice, and then go by yardage notes. For hole number 2, I'm going to give you 2 types of adjustment. We're going to start with a regular sniper shot, and this one is a bit tricky, but I do think that in the end this is going to be the better one for us to play compared to the rough bump that I'm going to show as the second option. Both of them has its difficulty, and I do believe this is one of the tougher par 3s we do have out there in the game. 2.5 bar topspin. I'm also using 1 bar of side spin to the right, having this third bounce to be just in between the dark and the bright green square row, while having the ball guideline pointing directly at the pin. Medium distance with a 20% over adjustment, and then it's time to take our shot. We are looking here for a double bounce before it goes over the rough. You're gonna see here in this example, it bounces, and then second bounce just before the rough, and then third on just the cutoff there by the fringe, and then we roll towards the hole. Unfortunately, we don't get it in the hole, but just a little bit more topspin would have been fine. And once again, I do believe this is a really good way of approaching this hole. We don't have to use any type of special ball. We can use a navigator, and once again, medium distance with a 20% over adjustment. For those of you who are interested to hear my thoughts about the rough bump, here that will come. So, for the rough bump, why don't I enjoy this rough bump as much as I normally do with rough bump? This is because of the wind. I do use 3 bars of side spin to the right, and here I'm juggle around a little bit to try to find the amount of spin that I do want to use. Here in the end, I do decide to go with approximately 3.5 bar backspin, and also 3 bars of side spin to the right, as already mentioned. I'm using, so I have the top of the red ring by the edge of the rough, with the ball guideline approximately 1 green square short of pin. Adjustment, I do give medium distance with a 20% over adjustment, but look what happens. You will see me miss pretty severely to the left. And the reason I miss to the left, it's because when I adjust for the wind that I'm having here, I do go from a lower point to a higher point, which means that first and foremost I have a bounce that is further up on the rough. So if I would be adjusting less, I would see my ball most likely miss the rough. Because as you could see, I got it very close to not clip the rough now also. So the thing that we will have to do here is that we should adjust minimum distance with a 20% over adjustment, and then we should pull back 1 ring. And always when you have to pull back or push up or something like that on par 3s, it's very often you never get that consistent. So you really need to be technical on this rough bump, and might get to see yourself being dialed in with this one later on. But for now, my approach is going to be the sniper, as I feel that's more easier, replicatable, and I'm not going to risk to miss the rough at all. For hole number 3, we are going to use a ball that is minimum power 3. If we do not use a power 3 here, we will see ourselves going into a risk of having struggled with the second shot. Here, first and foremost, you can see that I mixed you around a little bit using a power 5 ball, and I'm not ruling out that option at all, but I just didn't feel comfortable using the Apocalypse level 4. But I would say, if you do have a wind that is above 7 miles per hour, and you do have an Apocalypse level 4 plus, you should be going for it. Meaning that you should be going overpower, max, and try to get over. But looking at the adjustment here, we are in maximum distance of our club. We're using side spin to the left. We're also using a little bit of top spin. Maximum distance with a 20% over adjustment. And of course, would you want to try to hit perfect. But even with a great right or great left, we will see ourselves having no problem getting this ball to the fairway, and the closer we are to the rough, the better it's going to be. Just once again to mention about the power 5 ball approach, I would say that there is always a risk of getting that ball in the water. But if you do reach over, you do have a long iron or a wood club towards the pin instead. So for those of you having a bit higher clubs, use a power 5 ball, go and full blast, get it over. But here, this is a safe approach for the eagle being shown here. Now for the second shot, I'm using 6 bars of topspin. You can use less, you can use more, but the thing that I want you to focus on is that I do want the second bounce to be, when you're finding your adjustment, to be just before halfway into the rough. Now we are a little bit too high with our second bounce, but that is something we will have to go by feeling. Because the thing that I'm looking for is to go 1 bounce on the fairway, second bounce into the rough to roll down towards the green/fringe. No elevation is what I'm using here. I'm also using 1 bar of left spin. Bounce, and you can see here I'm coming in a bit too high in the rough, and therefore I do get more speed than I wanted to, but I stay nicely on the fringe and I will secure the eagle. So to just summarize hole number 3, go over if you do have the club, use a better ball, and then just go full blast. You will gain a massive advantage by doing so. If you are going to have to lay up, if you can play with a power 4 ball, I would recommend that. Then you don't have to push up your second shot in the end, and that will be easier for you to adjust. But playing the right side, as I just explained, you're going to have to settle for an eagle, and if you're gonna have any form of chance, in my opinion, for an albatross, I would, if so, try to get over. But in the end, I do understand that the club levels are massively different, so we will have to adapt based on what type of setup we are able to use. For hole number 4, we are going to use the red ring by the first bunker. That's going to be the starting point here for this shot. I'm not ruling out that we might move a bit more right to try to catch the funnel on the right, but at least as a start, this is where we're gonna go. Here we do want to have the ball guideline going through the hole with, as once again, the red ring by the rough, but I'm having a little bit too much, and you're gonna notice that as well. I would like to have a 0.8 bars of topspin. And the reason I do want the ball guideline to go through the hole is that we will most definitely will have the will have the wind that will push us down to adjust into the bunker. And when that happens, then obviously we are going to have the ball guideline go through the hole, otherwise we will go short. But coming in as hot as I'm doing there is not going to help us getting the hole in one either, because we will then risk obviously hit the pin and bounce out. So if we can just tweak the topspin a little bit with this shot, using 2 bars of side spin still, but then reduce the topspin a little bit with still the ball guideline through the hole, maximum distance with a 30% over adjustment. Yes, I said it, maximum plus 30. And the reason I'm going with maximum instead of medium and have more elevation is because the lower elevation we're having, the easier this shot is going to be. Once again, this is a par 3 that is tough of the Sequoia Creek, and I'm not really expecting many hole-in-ones, but I do think this is by far the best of the opportunities that we do have in the tournament. So for hole number 5, ladies and gentlemen, and here I want you to pull out the ball that gives you the most wind and power together. Berserker ball, if you don't have that, you can use a Liberty ball, a Snow Globe, a Ghost ball. There's plenty of power 5 ball that have wind resistance 1 or 0. And the reason I want you to do that is because we're gonna go for green. So even if you would be having a club that is less than Apocalypse level 4, like Apocalypse 3, 2, 1, I would still recommend you to go with Apocalypse due to its curl. If you do have an extra mile level 8 or level 9, those are also 2 perfect examples to use. I would stay away from Thor's Hammer, as the curl on the Thor's Hammer not really are that good. We aim to be very close to the tree. I would like you to first add max topspin, max side spin right, and then you have the ball guideline to be just by the tree, just before it clips away from the tree. And don't be alarmed, even with a great right, you will still not clip that tree. Sure, with a good right maybe, but if we hit a good shot, then we can honestly blame ourselves for that. Adjustment is going to be maximum distance with no elevation. Okay, So maximum distance, no elevation, we use as much topspin that we do have. I would recommend 6 bars of topspin for clubs with Apocalypse level 4 plus. If you do have clubs like Apocalypse level 1, then obviously you don't have more than 6 bars, so then you use the maximum. But let's say you have an extra mile level 9, don't use max topspin. Try to use like 6 bars of topspin to be able to go with max overpower all the time. Just because if we do have to go with somewhere in between in overpower, we will see ourselves being sometimes long, sometimes short. So it's better to adapt and keep the same spin so we can keep the same overpower all the time. Now I'm pretty lucky to bounce over the rough on the left, but I would strongly advise you to go with approximately 2 balls of curl to the right. And that is, you know, with the complete ball outside the adjustment ring to the right. And then we're gonna be most likely on green or very close to it to grab that eagle. This is by far the easiest par 4 and the easiest hole in this tournament. So we do need to have an eagle on this hole. For hole number 6, ladies and gentlemen, here I will keep myself with a Berserker Ball, and I actually have a good plan here, I think at least. Berserker Ball is not a must. You can play with a different Power 5 ball if you want to. You can play Power 4 ball, you can play Power 3 ball, but I wanted to use a Power 5 ball here to just state this. That is that we do need distance for the second shot. I'm at +1 with my quarterback. I'm using max topspin and as much side spin to the right possible. Adjustment is going to be maximum distance with a 20% over adjustment, half a ball of curl to the right, and then try to hit perfect. The plan is to have the second bounce into the rough and then roll out on the fairway. You may be wondering, why don't I bounce directly onto the fairway? It's because then I will gain too much distance and the trees will be in my face. If we do have a club that is Apocalypse level 5 plus, or maybe even an Extra Mile 8 plus, or Thor's Hammer level 5 plus, you could go by using a Berserker Ball or any other Power 5 ball to go a full blast shot going straight forward. But I'm not going to play that here because I don't really have that possibility with the clubs that I'm having. Second shot, you can see that we are very close to maximum distance of our club with our wood club. But the thing that we do get from laying up short on the left with our drive is that now we do get at least an opportunity for an albatross and we don't have to overpower. 20% over adjustment, maximum distance numbers, and obviously spin could vary depending on what type of position you have after you drive. But one thing that I do want you to have in mind, that you could use, as already explained, a different type of ball. You can also use a sniper here for the second shot, but make sure then that you do have at least a sniper level 9, so you do have distance enough so you don't have to overpower. Because the reason I go with the Cataclysm here and also suggesting the Cataclysm or the Big Dog is that I do have a thought that we could stay away from using only a wind resistance 1 ball, so we can have wind resistance 2 or wind resistance 3 with power 3 or power 4, and then still be able to not having to overpower. But in the end, it's you that do decide. This is a tough par 5, and whatever we do here with this type of setup, we will have ourselves an opportunity making an albatross from distance, even though it's going to be tough. For hole number 7, we're going to have a good chance making an eagle. And here, you can go 2 ways here. You can go with a more aggressive shot, going with overpower, trying to go over the rough patch directly. Or you bounce over like we are going to do here. 4.5 bar topspin and as much side spin to the right possible, which is side spin 3. I'm adjusting to leave myself with half a ring of distance from the rough to the left and to the right, and also 1 ring to the top with the Extra Mile level 7. Obviously this position is possible to replicate with an Extra Mile level 8 or any other type of Extra Mile and Thor's Hammer and also Apocalypse. I'm hitting great right, unfortunately, but I do think that the great right here definitely helped us, otherwise we would be more on the left hand side. You could also see that I did, become very close to the rough line there, and the thing that I would like to say to you is that it's very easy when using curl to accidentally use a little overpower. And that's something you really need to pay attention to, because if you're using overpower, then you will maybe clip the rough and then you're gonna struggle just getting the birdie. But we're getting it over, and it's very important to find yourself in a yardage that you can then note down so you can replicate from there. In the end, also looking at the drive, we can take it once again, is that when I'm using curl on this drive, you can see that I did hit great left and still ended up in the center of the fairway. So the curl that we're having here, I'm using half a ball of curl. I use a little bit more than half a ball of curl just to make sure that we are on the side there, so we're not going directly into the rough on the left, because that would honestly be a bummer. So we're gonna say that again just for the sake of it, to just take it easy, so we are following everything here through. So adjustment, I played 20% over adjustment. I also want you to play minimum distance numbers. So approximately 3/4 of a ball outside the adjustment ring to the right is what we're looking for. And once again, minimum distance with 20% over adjustment. Now you can see the yardage once again, and that is 334. From 334, we are very close to maximum distance of our club, and the thing that we are going to play is maximum distance as well. Maximum distance with a 10% over adjustment, and the spin is going to be applied as following. You see, I'm using 2 bars of backspin, and look at how I position my rings here. I'm having a slight little, I'm having like half of the transparent ring into the bunker and half of it on fairway. And that is a position that I would like you to have in mind when you set up your shot. Because if you're using different type of position for your second shot, the yardage doesn't really mean anything. So you need to set it up exactly as the same all the time, and then you will have a much easier time to get that ball in the hole. As already explained, 10% over adjustment, maximum distance number, and we just creep in on the left side of the cup. But in the end though, it's an eagle, and that is definitely something that we will bring with us on this par 4, where I do believe we're gonna find ourselves having to make an eagle going forward in the tournament. For hole number 8, we're going to once again find ourselves playing a very tough par 3 here. And here I'm going to try to make it as simple as possible for us. I'm using no spin. So I'm not using any spin. I want the ball guideline to go slightly through the hole. I don't want it to be a lot through the hole, approximately half a green square. So make sure that you just zoom in on the tip of the ball guideline to make sure that you are in the correct position. Now I do adjust for a medium distance with a 25% over adjustment, but I would like you to play with 30. So 30% over adjustment, medium distance numbers, and then we're going to see ourselves being very close to the pin here. The tough part with this hole is that we're gonna have several bounces towards the pin. See, bounce, 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 and it then gets up and roll towards the pin. Obviously, we do need a little bit more, as already explained, to get there, but have in mind that this is not going to be a super duper consistent hole for us to play, as this is a par 3 that we do play from very far behind and going to have to rely on several bounces. So, once again, 30% over adjustment, medium distance numbers, you don't use any spin, let the ball guideline go approximately half a green square through the hole, use a kingmaker to reduce the wind, and then you're gonna be close for an hole-in-one. For hole number 9, I'm going to use my quarterback. You can also use the rock here, as also is a perfect club for this type of approach. Now I'm using 4 bars of topspin, max side spin to the left, and we're going to take a look at the tip of the second bounce, which is going to be approximately 1/3 into the fairway on the other side. We are then going to adjust maximum distance with a 10% over adjustment, and then we're going to take our shot with full curl to the left. The ball then is going to bounce on the fairway, getting over to the other fairway, and we're going to get this nice little roll up to the fairway here to be approximately 325 yards. The yardage doesn't really matter here, as this is not a linear hole, but what matters is that we get as far to the left possible when it comes to our shot, because that will open it up to go for a rough bump or just a bounce over shot. If you do play with a sniper level 9 or level 10, I would recommend a rough bump. If you do not have that type of club, I would recommend you to use topspin and get the ball guideline to the hole, which is going to be much harder. So in the end, I do decide in the end of the adjustment here to use the topspin that I do have on my club, using 4 bars of topspin, and then going to adjust for maximum distance and no elevation. But you can also see that my pull angle was, you know, way weird, so I should obviously have had a straight wind angle there. Ball guideline to the hole, and then you can see that we are going to miss this one to the left off the pin here. But this is, in my opinion, a very interesting approach, where once again what type of club you're going to have is going to be deciding what way you can play. So in the end, get the drive over with the quarterback or the rock consistent, and then you have the sniper for either a rough bump or to bounce over towards the pin. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, for hole number 9.